Hey everyone, my name's Kaylin. I'm on the product team here at SimpleConsign. You may recognize me from onboarding several of you a couple years ago, as well as from the videos in the What's New posts, where we're talking about our more recent releases. So if you haven't checked out our What's New posts, right here, and you can subscribe to them if you want to be the first to know when we're releasing something new. All right. So here in the back office, so this is available to select manager users, admins, primary users. On the reports tab, we have two types of reports. Today, we're going to cover our pre-built reports. So these are the ones that are already constructed for you and have ready to access information. The first one I want to take a look at is the sales report. And if anyone has any specific reports they'd like me to take a look at, we can cover that. We'll do some Q&A towards the end here. I'm in a test store, so this will be test data. And I'm going to run the sales report for a date range. So we're going to do month to date, so all of March so far. And I don't know about you, but I can't believe that we're already halfway through March. So once this loads, let's make this nice and big so it's easier to see. So we've got our sales report, and notice that it goes from midnight to the current time that you've run it, since we're running it to the day that it is currently. My store is in Eastern time as well. So this is going to have all of our sales totals, all of this information up top. It's going to break things up into store-owned and consigned item sales. So for our stores that do a mix of store-owned and consigned, you'll have those figures separated, as well as your taxable sales and your non-taxable sales. Keep in mind that your taxes are controlled by the category your items belong to, but you can also have tax-exempt customers and tax-exempt sales as a general statement. It's going to have all of these lovely numbers down here, just at a glance. This is what you're going to use the majority of the time when you're going to the reports section. Sales report is very helpful, very versatile report. You've got some comparison down here for month to date of this year and last year, so you can see the difference. Again, this is a test store, so there's going to be a variance in data, but this is a good way to keep an eye on how your store is doing compared to last year's sales. Some information down here on the right, sales total, your store split, consignor split. If you have some items that are at varying splits, so maybe generally your store's at a 50-50 split, but you might have an item that's 100% to the store or maybe 60%. Keep in mind that these numbers are not going to be easily divisible, and you can't just apply that 50% split across the board and expect those numbers to match. So you got to think about this on an item by item basis and all of the items that sold. So really, this is just an overview report that you're going to use frequently with your accountant and on a regular basis. Stores like to look at this on a daily basis, weekly and monthly. And then as you get towards tax season, we'll see stores run this for an entire year at a time. All right. We could talk about that report for forever, but we've got some lovely other reports to check out. So I'm going to close out of this one. But sales report, that's going to be a key report for you. The next one that is a really, really important report that not everyone knows the importance of is your end of day report and your end of month report. Your end of month report is just a combination of all of your end of day reports for an entire time period. And the trick about the end of day report is that we're going to see it here at the top. You should be running your end of day process at the end of every business day. Now, because this is a test store, we have not been doing that consistently, which means the data displayed here is going to be listed at the top for this time frame. So it's been since September of last year all the way through to today. So if I was to go through and try and figure out why my expected totals don't match my actual totals because I haven't been completing the end of day process on a regular basis, I'll have to go through that whole almost, I guess, more than 6-month time period in order to figure out where that discrepancy is, which makes it a lot more difficult. This is essentially your cash flow report. This is how you make sure that you're taking in the amount of cash, that there's not cash missing from your drawer at the end of the day, either due to employee theft, or just giving out the wrong amount of change because math is hard sometimes, or that you haven't forgotten to account for a payment that you made throughout the day. So for example, when I was working in store, we forgot that we paid the window washer in cash and our drawer was off. And we had to go through and address that, and we found it due to the end of day process. If we hadn't have found it and corrected it in that process, our end of day cash flow report would have been off. So up here in the top left, highlighted in red, you've got your beginning balance. So for the entire time period that this report is for, that's the amount of money that you've reported that you started with in your drawer at the start of every day. So if I was to have 2 days combined here, and I opened my drawer with $200, every day, then I would see a total beginning balance of 400. Or if I had 3 days and I did 200 every day, it would be 600 like we see here. It'll have a quick reference sales number as well, and then list out all of the different payment methods and reasons that you received money, and combine all of them. That'll reach your total in number. And then we're going to list out all of the reasons that money would have left your drawers throughout the day, and that'll be your total out. The difference is going to show you what your ending balance is, and then we'll get our over and short numbers as well. Because we haven't closed out our terminal and done the end of day process, our actual numbers here are pretty blank except for $100 in cash. But generally what the system's doing here is the expected total is how much the system thinks you should have, and the actual total is how much you've told the system when you've closed your terminals for the day, run your end of day report, you actually have. And it's finding those differences that helps you understand your cash flow and whether there's something that you need to check up on. If you have an excess amount of cash, more cash than you started with, it's going to tell you to do a cash deposit. Same with check and credit card. So it's going to tell you how much you need to do or transfer or deposit in order to get back to your starting amount. The system is trying really hard to get you back to your beginning balance, the amount of cash that you started your day with. Another really important reason to do your end of day process and review your end of day reports is if you need to have the starting inventory cost numbers. These are really important for insurance claims. So not that we ever wish that anything happens, but if there was to be a natural disaster, a break-in, anything that would cause you to have to report to an insurance company or anyone what the value of your inventory was, those numbers will get updated every time you do an end of day report, or an end of day process, and they would be reflected on your end of day report. All right, I see a question about the end of day report here. If you have a mistake once you close the terminal and the report is incorrect, how do we correct? So unfortunately, the way that it is today is once you have finalized your end of day process, so I don't know about y'all, but I'm a visual learner. So let's go log into a terminal. We'll log in, we'll pretend we're Allison. So if I close the terminal, close the terminal. And I think I'm going to have to close everyone else's terminals too. Let's see if anyone's active in here. Nope, no one's been active in here for a bit. Close terminal. I'm just going to close all of them. And we'll just kick everybody out of here. Hope the sales team doesn't mind. Log in. Jessica's not safe either. Let's kick her out. All right. So now if I was to run the end of day process, so this is when I'm closing out the terminal. You need to do this only once per location. So if you have a multi-location company, you'll do this once per location, once per brick and mortar store essentially. But even if you have multiple terminals, you still only need to do the end of day process once. So once you've clicked this finalize end of day, you cannot change the information. You'd need to make a note for your accountant for when you're doing your taxes. If this is information that you need to file for taxes in your area. But once this is finalized, you can't make any adjustments to it. If there's a scenario where you forgot that you had taken $20 out of the drawer to pay for window washing, and that's why your expected and actual is off. Say we had 108, 108.89, and we were exactly $20 off at this terminal. Then we could adjust the cash out and say $20 left to the register and say window washer and apply that, and you'll see the expected will drop by $20, and that's how we would then match those numbers. As a general rule, nothing terrible is going to happen if your numbers don't match. The goal here is just to help you keep an eye on your totals, understanding why there's differences, and catch any mistakes as early as possible. This is not going to affect your sales report. If you're off on your end of day, your sales total numbers are not going to be incorrect. This is just to help you understand where your money is coming and going. And when there's a discrepancy between the two, know that something needs to be investigated or looked into further. Does that answer that question? Before I can cancel out of here, I have to revert my cash out. There we go. All right, back office. All right, so end of day report really just helps you keep insight into your store and see what's going on with your cash flow. Now let's get into some of the more fun, less standard reports. I don't know about y'all, but I love patterns and trends and seeing what the busiest times of day or days of the week are. And we have a report specifically for that. You have an hourly sales report. So you could run this for a specific date range. You could run it for the entire year. Or if you have a regular sale every year, the same day every year, you could run it for last year and then see a report of what your busiest timeframes are for that sale. So what this is going to do is give you your totals by hour, so the number of sales as well as the dollar value for that time frame. So you can see here that this test store seems to be pretty busy between, 3 and 4 p.m. as a general rule. That's when we get the most sales. But if we look at the day of the week, we can break it out to Monday, Tuesday, and see the hours by day of the week instead. So this is helpful if you're just interested in that data, but it can also help you see what your busiest times of day are by day of the week. So you can work on scheduling employees. Maybe if you look at this, you'll realize that maybe Fridays are busier in the morning. So you know you need to schedule more people in the morning instead of the afternoon. And it allows you to make educated planning decisions about your store and your team. So this is pretty much just the same thing over and over for each day, and you can get specific dates as well. So there's just lots of really cool information in here if you're a data nerd like I am. Another favorite is the sales by category report. And again, you can run this for a date range. And when we click to view this report, it's going to show us our sales by category. So this is all store-owned inventory. So this is just items that belong to the store. And you'll be able to see by category how many items you sold for the date range that we selected, what your cost of goods were. So you can track cost on store-owned inventory, but not on consigned inventory. So you can see what your sales totals were, and you can have it broken down as well for your consignment items. And again, how many items you've sold, the consignor payment amount, how much the total sales were. And then you can see your margins. We break it down even further into used and new for store owned. So here's the new, as well as just all inventory combined. This is super helpful because in the store that I worked at, for example, handbags and shoes took up about the same amount of floor space, but handbags sold significantly better than shoes. And once we realized that, we were able to be more selective with what shoes we took in, since they didn't sell as well, but we still wanted to offer them. And we instead dedicated more floor space to handbags since they sold faster, sold more, and were generally a higher dollar value. So this, again, will help you make more educated decisions about your store, what types of items you're selling, and things like that. All right, one more really cool report. If you have multiple team members in your store, this is something that we would run on a regular basis and have like little mini competitions with each other to see who could bring up and sell the most things. So you'll see here that you have each user listed, and you can see how much they sold. Does this person tend to get a lot of returns back, or do their sales tend to stick? And you can kind of compare and see who might be your best sales associate, who's the best at getting items out the door, who maybe deals with the most returns, things like that. So if you're interested in seeing your sales by user, you'll need to make sure that you have a separate user account set up for every person in your store. That will help with reports like this, but also just general auditing of actions in the system. And this is the user who was signed into the system at the time that the sale was processed. And then I just realized that we never talked about it, but here on the reports tab, there's this drop down, and we've got a search bar. So you can, if you know the name of the report you're looking for, you can search for it, or you can scroll through. And we've got all sorts of pre-built reports. I could talk for hours about all of these reports, but I'll spare y'all. And each of these reports, when you click on them, will have a description of what that report is for. So it'll help you get an idea of what you're going to find in that report before you even run it. But we've got all of these pre-built reports for you. And then down here, we've got custom reports. We're going to talk about custom reports next week. Again, super excited to share about these. I think this has to be my all-time favorite feature in the system. There's so much information that you can uncover in here. You can learn so much about your store, and we've got all of these different ways to start a custom report. So feel free, jump in, explore all of these pre-built reports. And we do actually have one more type of pre-built report. For those of you on the Pro plan, this is included in your subscription. You don't have to do anything additional, and you can pick and choose which users have access to this. But we do have the Store Insight app, which we launched last year, and it is kind of at a glance. I like that it's your store as a Tamagotchi, kind of. So it's in your pocket. You can reference it anytime, and you can go through these 5 different tabs we have at the bottom. So you can get at a glance sales information. You can click in and learn more. So we've got 7 transactions, and in this case, all 7 of them were sales, as opposed to buy transactions, voids, returns, or layaways. So at a glance information about your store. You can filter by in-store, online, or combine them. And you can get more detailed information as well. So you can get information about your average transaction, average sale price, categories, what your top categories are. You can get sell-through rates for your top categories. Trend information, so you can see year-over-year growth for your store. You can see if you keep up that trend, what your projected sales are. At a glance, how many customers you have, how many consigners you have, what your owed money is for payouts. And then also you can keep an eye on whether your terminals are open or closed, whether they closed over or short. So really at a glance information about your store. This is included, no additional charge on the Pro plan, and it is available as an add-on on the basic and standard plans as well. One of the really cool things this does is if you have a multi-location company, you can view all locations combined. So you can see just a really quick overview of your entire business. So you can do all locations, and then you can do online and in-store and get all of your numbers in one place. All right, I see a couple questions that I missed while I was kind of waxing about Store Insights. It's one of my favorite things that we've added in the last year or so. Oh no, I lost the chat. Where'd it go? There it is. Can you add a category? I imagine that was when we were talking about the category sales report, sales by category. You can add categories to this. You would just go into your system settings and then you go to categories and you can customize your categories however you like. So you can add new categories. I thoroughly encourage stores to add as many categories as you need. Don't go overboard and split out like 3 drawer dressers and 2 drawer dressers. Just do dressers. Think about how if you were to online shop your store, how you would go looking for inventory. So you can add your own name. You can choose your inventory type. So this determines what fields you have access to fill out. And I always encourage you to fill out as much information as you can about those items because it's only going to better inform your reporting, which will better inform information about your store. Let me zoom out a little bit here so we can see the whole window. But yes, you can add categories and then those would be reported on in that sales by category report. The Store Insights app is available for download by direct link. I believe we have it listed in the user guide. I'll get those links to Caroline. So when we send the follow-up email from this webinar, we'll have those included. It's the Store Insights app. It's not listed in the App Store. It's a direct link. So we'll include that. If you finalize an end of day, but for some reason later that day, you need to open the register for a special customer, what do? So you don't have to do just one end of day each day. So we've had stores that will have like a morning shift of employees and an evening shift, and they'll complete the end of day process at the end of each shift. So you can complete the end of day as many times as you need. It's just that report will run from the last time it was completed to the next time it's completed. You need the direct link. All right. We will get that for you. This is, let me pull that back over. Store Insights app is such a really cool thing. We've got tooltips throughout here so you can click in and see what it is that these numbers are. And there's drill downs on most of these, but you can scroll down and see transaction totals, transaction counts. And it allows you to kind of not be in the store, but still have a quick and easy view into what's happening. Perfect. Caroline to the rescue with a quick app. Do you recount your money if you open the register up again after end of day? And if you run end of day and finalize per shift for the day, will the sales report reflect the entire day? The sales report will always be for the from midnight to midnight for a selected date range or day. So the sales report is not impacted at all by your end of day process or by your end of day report. If you have a situation where, so in this store, I already did the end of day process. So if I was then to go in and open Allison's terminal again, and let's say that I put in $100 as my starting balance, because that's how much money was in my drawer, I can open my terminal. I could then ring up a sale. So let's go find an item. This looks good. Let's sell this. Perfect. $16.50. That's a good deal. All right, $20, no receipts. We'll complete the transaction. And now I need to close my register again. I can count up my drawer now, or I can do it later. Bill count. This is my favorite because I don't know about y'all, but I could never actually count the money very effectively at the end of a long day. This allows you to just count how many of each bill you have. So I could say, oh, I have 3 20s, and it'll do the math for me and say, oh, that's $60. So you can do it that way. I'm going to close it without entering any totals. And then when we run the end of day process, you'll see that it doesn't have any of the information from last time. It's just the $100 I said that was in the drawer, and then the $20 I was paid minus the change. So it's saying, hey, you should have this much because you gave the rest of that 20 back to the customer. So if I counted my drawer, I could just say, yep, I do actually have exactly that. And then I would just finalize again. And now if we go look, end of day, I'm going to pick today as my from date. But when I click run, it's going to ask me which one I want to look at. So here's this one that ran from September of 2024 through to 11/14 earlier today. And then here's the one that we just did where we reopened it in order to complete that transaction. So it's just going to break that into different time frames. And it's already tracking again since we just closed it. This is a new time period as well. Did that answer your question? I think that was a combination of Kathy and Melissa. All right. Does anyone else have any questions or have a report that they want us to take a quick look at? What is the name of the app for iPhones? It's the Store Insights app. Caroline posted a link further up in the chat. It's not listed in the App Store. You'll have to use the direct link.
And I'll add this link into the follow-up email as well.
Perfect. Payout reports for consigners. Thank you, Rhoda. See you next week. Payout reports for consigners. Okay. So payout reports for consigners. These are reports that are generated when you complete a payout. So let's go. Let's pay out Jane here. So if we complete a payout process, and because I'm in the back office, I won't have the ability to do a cash payout. It's going to default to ACH, but I can click this and choose to do check or any other listed payout option as well. So we can print a detailed report if we check this box, print a check. I'm going to skip the check. And when we submit this payout, it's going to build this report. And then this is just going to list out all of the line items that contributed to this payout for this consignor. You can print this out and give it to them when you give them their check or their cash, or mail it to them if they're getting an ACH payout. I would highly encourage you to instead refer your consignors to Consignor Access. It's available on our standard and pro plans. It allows them to check in and view this information whenever they'd like. And then you're not having to spend the money on printing it and the ink and managing all of that. But this report is referenceable. It's saved in the system, so you can always go back and view it. So I can click in and view this. I can always go back and print it. And then if you're doing a big batch, there's going to be a batch summary report as well. And then you can export this or print this for your records. But it will always be stored in the system. You don't have to print it. The ACH does send money from your account to the consignor. So what you would do, it's available for our US-based stores on the standard and pro plans. And you would set up, through our partner, you would set up your bank account, and then the consignors would also set up theirs to receive money, and they'd do that through Consignor Access. And when you do the ACH payout, the money will go to their account. Can I show an example of an inventory report that will show me all memo priced items and their status? I can. That is a perfect question for next week. So we'll write that down and we will cover that specifically next week when we do our custom reports webinar. Can you export to QuickBooks for batch payouts? Yes. For check and ACH payouts, we actually recently released an improvement to this. But yes, you can connect QuickBooks Online and your check and ACH payouts are able to be synced to QuickBooks. Making sure when we count the money at the end of the day and we're over or under, can we fix this in the report before finalizing? Yes, you can. You can adjust all of those values before you finalize the report after you've closed the terminals. Is there a way to get a list of consigners that need to be paid for the month? Yes, there is. Depending on what you're wanting to do with that, that could be a perfect question for next week in our custom reports. You can also filter here, not filter, excuse me, sort by balance. And when you've got that arrow pointing down, it's going to have your highest balances at the top, all the way to your lowest balances at the bottom. If you're just wanting to know at a glance, you can hit pay consigners with pending payouts. And then you can adjust this to whatever method you wish to pay by. So I'm going to do check since I don't have ACH set up on this test store. But then when I apply those filters, here's my full list. And you could do a print preview of that. Whoops. Well, I think I have something misconfigured in my test store here. But you can view all of the consigners that you have available to receive a balance at this time. Now, this is going to change as soon as you have any other sales or adjustments made to their accounts. So you want to be careful about that. If you want just a general number of how much money you could need to pay out, you can view that from the Store Insights app or from the overview here in the back office, and you can see your pending payouts total. Do you have to pay all consigners if you use the ACH button? You can pick and choose which consigners have the ability to add ACH as a payout method. So they'd have to put their bank account information in, and you can pick and choose who has access to do that. So no, you don't have to do that. You can still individually pay them via ACH as well, but you can also pay via ACH for bulk payout. Is it possible to pay them in cash? Yes, it is. But because cash is connected with your cash drawer, you can only do cash payouts at an open terminal. So if I open this terminal, I would then have the ability to pay out via cash. So cash is now an option. It was not because I was in the back office. How do you go about setting up users, especially since we have 2 to 4 people working the register? I'd love to see in reports showing what each employee sells. Who's good? Yeah. So setting up users, that is very important for making sure your reporting information is accurate. So you can add users from the back office, either from this user tab, or you can do it from settings. Same results either way. What you'll do is you'll click new user, and you want to make sure you have a separate user account for each person. You'll just input their information. If you want them to have back office access, you will have to enter an email so that there is the ability to email them their account credentials. But admin, manager, and cashier, and you can choose whether they have Store Insights access as long as they're a back office user. Multi-location stores can also choose which locations each user has access for. There's no charge for users, so add as many as you have. That'll allow you to understand what each person is doing in your system. And yes, you can see who entered an item. We can cover that in our custom reports next week. But also if you go and view your item and view history, you can see here that Becca created this item because that is the account that was logged in when it was created. So all sorts of really cool things in here. View batch history, and then including consignment batches, you can see who created all of the inventory batches on each day. And then you can click into each of these and you can see what item it was. Lots of good questions. A lot of this is stuff that you'll be able to see and learn more about in that custom reports next week. Each user has to log in and out each time they process a customer. You can set up a timeout on the terminal side of the system, but all they have to do is click this change PIN logout, and they'll have a 4-digit PIN that they can enter. And so it's a real quick login process to get back in. I unfortunately don't know what my PIN is on this account. So let's see. Let's pick on Allison. So Allison here has a cashier PIN of 1481. So if I was to switch back to the terminal and say that I came up to the computer and it looked like this, if I just typed in 1481 and hit enter, now I'm signed in as that cashier user. Can an end of day summary report automatically print at closing of terminal? Not today. That is a really good feature request. I will note that down. What if it, instead of printing, what if it emailed to the primary user? Would that be helpful? Yes, there is a way to see that. These are really good questions. We'll copy these out of the chat and we can cover them next week in our custom reports. Custom reports are super, super flexible. So you'll be able to get all sorts of information specific for your store. The pre-built reports cover a wide range of use cases. The custom reports allow you to really fine-tune things. Printed copy would be better. Oh, with the cash drop. Okay, that makes sense. All right. I'm going to wrap this up for today. If y'all have any questions, I highly encourage you to reach out to our support team. They're a lovely group. They're actually the reason that I moved from working in store to working at SimpleConsign, because they just seemed so lovely that I checked to see if SimpleConsign was hiring, and turns out they were. And here I am 6 years later. So please reach out to them. They're a lovely group.
Kaylin, thank you so much. And everyone, thanks so much for joining us. As she mentioned, we do have the custom reports on the 20th. So if you haven't already, you can register for that. And everything will be included in the follow-up email today. The recording, the link to Insights, and the registration page for next week.
Yes. Can't wait to see y'all next week.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.